As you can see, I'm probably sweating my balls off right now because I just moved a bunch of furniture. My room, my DVD collection has finally outdone me. I filled both of these shelves, which was everything that I could hold, and I have this small one there that's basically full for my Criterions. And as you can see on my bed, there's all my box sets that are lying around there. On my desk I have more box sets. And today I just purchased a new shelf to fill. And originally I just wanted something that was about half this size. As you can see here, I'm trying to do that. Just a small column that I could fit in between these two. But I decided find a more permanent solution, find a bigger shelf that I could throw everything on and will give me a longer period. Here I bought used for $25 at the Deseret Industries. If you're not familiar with what the Deseret Industries is, it's a very local, I think it's pretty much just an Idaho, Utah thing owned by the Mormons. And basically it's like a big thrift store. It's kind of like the Goodwill or the Salvation Army, except for it's owned by the Mormons, and they hire like mentally handicapped people to work there. And I'm not being mean by saying that. That's literally what they do. It's part of their program. A little bit of a project, moving everything over here, but I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And then I have a DVD update, some stuff. I did the Best Buy trade and save deal. Not very successful there, but I also bought a few things today, and you'll see what I got. Okay, so here's the new situation with my DVD shelves. I've moved things around, I've changed things, I've put things on different shelves now that I put this new one up, and I'm pretty happy with my decision. Here, I'll show you a little bit of kind of what I've done. So here's my old shelf, my first shelf with all the side shelves where I put all my DVD box sets, and basically nothing here changed. It still holds everything that it held before. Here is my other old shelf, my black shelf, and I put all of my Criterions that I had on a small bookshelf, a small like 2-shelf shelf, on here, in which it can begin to grow, and I can add more Criterions and some other stuff on here too. Because I was left with so much extra space, I decided to put in all of my documentaries and my music DVDs, which I normally had just kind of shoved down here in no particular order. I just had to get them out of the way, but now they have more of kind of a place to be, and I'm kind of happy about that. Also, there's some other good changes. So here's the new bookshelf, which you can't really tell in this video probably, but it's really wide. It's about not twice but about a quarter more wide than my other older bookshelf, so it holds quite a bit. Each row here holds 3 little cubbies from this one, so I was able to spread this out quite a bit. And I have a whole other row at the bottom there that I can still use. I'll probably be breaking into that pretty soon, but also I've discovered, because there's so many extra holes on the side for more shelves, I can make or buy another shelf and slide it in there at any time and have a whole other row. And I've moved some of my older box sets that I used to keep on my black shelf up here, and I also discovered something else that's really cool about this new bookshelf that I bought for 25 bucks. Because this bookshelf is so deep, I was able to do something a lot better with these big collector's sets. Like here I have my Casablanca set and my Willy Wonka set and my Planet of the Apes box set here. And normally I had a really hard time kind of storing these because they're so huge. They're like the size of board games, and I had to kind of set them on top of things. They'd fall down a lot, and it was sort of a problem for me. But now, which I didn't even plan this at all, but because this because this new bookshelf is so deep, I can kind of keep them side by side like that, like DVDs, and now I don't have to feel bad every time I buy one of these things and never having the problem justifying buying them when I can't even find room for them. So basically I'm really happy with my purchase here, and I have to say I wish there was a better way to do all of this than bookshelves. If any of you can tell me an easier way to store DVDs than bookshelves that's still compact, where you can display everything but can hold, you know, take up less space than bookshelves, let me know. You know, a cheap option if possible, but what are the different ways out there that all of you are storing your DVDs? Do you keep them in totes? Do you keep them in boxes? Do you keep them on bookshelves like I do? Is there any better way? I haven't thought of one yet that I like, but I don't know. I wish there was something else. I mean, I know some people, you know, they take all their DVDs out and put them in those big binders and throw their cases away, but that's not an option for me. I like to have the whole thing that I bought. I don't pay, you know, whatever it is that I pay for DVDs and Blu Rays just so I can throw half of the packaging away. That's, for me, that's a big part of what collecting DVDs is about. So, is there any way that I can save more space than bookshelves but be able to keep all the packaging together? There probably isn't. Anyway, so the rest of this video is going to be a DVD update that some of the last stuff that I've bought. Not a lot there, and I'll try and keep it quick since this video is already running long, but just stick with it and I'll show you some cool stuff. Alright, welcome back. So now I'll start my DVD update, and as per usual, I'll show everything that I bought in DVD first and move on down to the Blu Rays, to the good stuff. I did a little bit of the Best Buy trade and save, which was really unsuccessful for me. I got some cool finds in DVD, which, you know, I only buy DVD if it's going to be a cool find or it's something you can't get in Blu-ray. And I got some more pawn shop stuff in Blu-ray too, so here we go. Alright, so while I was waiting for my dad to bring his pickup so I could bring this shelf home, I looked through their DVDs at the Deseret Industries thrift store, and for $2 I picked up the DVD of Love Potion No. 9. Now, if you've ever seen this movie, it's an old, kind of high-concept romantic comedy, science fiction of sorts. It's kind of back in the day when they used to do a lot of these kind of, in the early 90s, they did a lot of these really high-concept romantic comedy science fiction hybrid movies like Love Potion No. 9, My Boyfriend's Back. To some extent, you could throw in the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This real 90s kitsch kind of stuff, which I have a weird affinity for, even though they're not very good movies. Oh, what was the other one? Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. Yeah, this kind of fits along with this. This is an early Sandra Bullock movie. I think this might have been one of the first movies she was in. And it's basically about these two scientists who create a love potion that they found at like a magic gypsy store or something like that. They chemically dilute it down into a mouth spray, and whoever they talk to immediately falls in lust with them. And even though they're just colleagues and they're both kind of nerdy, they both sort of find this new spirit in life because now they can get anybody that they want. And it's, I don't know, it's a dorky movie. I wouldn't even really recommend it per se unless you're a huge Sandra Bullock fan, which I'm not per se. I'm a big fan of dumb early 90s movies, and that's exactly what this is. But it's sort of a good memory for me somewhere in here. At a local pawn shop, the one that I usually visit, I wasn't even planning on buying any DVDs, but over in my corner of my eye I found this really cool DVD, science fiction movie that came out a few years ago, independently, called Primer. This is a very low budget film. I think it was made for, oh god, I want to say something like $30,000 or less, and it's really, really good. Very psychologically intense, very cerebral kind of science fiction. Not a lot of special effects, almost no special effects in fact, but basically it's about these two guys who sort of invent time travel, and they work in a really small office, and it creates all of these time loops and parallel universes and stuff where they keep trying to change things, and sort of the butterfly effect that causes The acting in it is a little amateurish because they're kind of first-time actors, but it's made so well and so efficiently. I'd say if you want to take a good look at how to make a movie cheaply, rent Primer. Here's a movie that I found at a Walgreens. Late at night I went to go buy some normal pharmacy stuff, and they have a small little DVD bin there, and I always check anything DVD out in case there's some interesting finds. Usually there's not when it comes to those kind of places, grocery stores and stuff like that. It's usually just dreck. But I found a really interesting movie that you should not find at Walgreens, but it's called The Knack and How to Get It. This is a early 60s British New Wave film released by, or created by Richard Lester, who was the director of a lot of the Beatles movies. He did this, I think, in between a couple of the Beatles movies. And basically it's about the swinging 60s and a couple guys in London during the swinging 60s who were trying to get laid, and this girl who they're both sort of fighting for, and she's obviously smarter than both of them. It's a very stylized movie, very, it dates kind of weird if you watch it. It kind of will remind you a lot of those Beatles movies where they speed up the camera and they do weird stuff like that, like you know, double cranking things so it looks sort of weird, and these weird sort of musical montages and stuff like that. But it's an interesting movie, and it's definitely an artifact from a different time. This kind of angry young men period in Britain, their sort of film revolution they had about 10 years before America. Alright, and lastly, as far as DVDs go, I was able to purchase from, I think I got this at a place called CD World, which is sort of a new and used CD store. Universal's Dracula. Basically, they've been releasing these Universal 2-disc DVD sets for all of the old Universal classics. And I have the Frankenstein and I have the Wolfman, but I really wanted to get the Dracula. And they had it there for relatively cheap. I think I bought it for about 13 bucks new. I don't know if there's Blu Ray versions of these yet, but these are really nice sets. Any of these Universal Legacy series, I think I have a Psycho and a Rear Window that is done in this series too, and they always put a lot of care into the packaging and the special features. You know, almost to like a Criterion standard. And this also comes with, as a special feature, the Spanish version of the film. Not a lot of people know this, but they actually shot this film twice in the same production. They did one version in English and one version in Spanish at night after the English production was finished. And some people, some film scholars, say that the Spanish version is actually a little bit better, so I'll be interested to see that one since I haven't before. Okay, so this is what I bought in Blu-ray from the trade and save deal that they have, or upgrade and save deal that they have at Best Buy. I took a lot of DVDs down to upgrade, I think something like 15, and I was only able to find 3. So really not successful for me. I'm hoping next time when I go they have more in stock in their Blu-ray collections, and I can upgrade a lot of those other ones that I had there. But I was able to find a few, so I'll just show them off just 'cause. And I have the Brandon Lee film, The Crow. Shouldn't have to say much about this. It's again sort of an early 90s classic based on a comic book by James O'Barr. Kind of a proto-goth movie. I would say a lot of the style that Underworld has sort of apes off of this. Of course, Alex Proyas, who's the director, who later did Knowing and Dark City. He took a lot of his style from Blade Runner and the early Ridley Scott sort of production design. But it's a really good movie. It's a really good comic book movie, sort of a revenge tale about a man and his wife who get murdered by a gang. He comes back to life with supernatural powers, and he, you know, kills them all. And it's a really fun, dark, kind of rainy, gothy kind of comic book movie. Before the genre really took off, so it has kind of a different flavor than a lot of the comic book movies you see nowadays, which I think tend to lean a little too cartoony sometimes. This is kind of a hard R, sort of fun style action movie. Another science fiction film. I have a lot of these today. This is Duncan Jones' Moon. This was his debut film. Again, a really low-budget independent film. I think it was made for about $1 million, which is, in today's standards, super low. Stars Sam Rockwell, and Kevin Spacey is the voice of a robot. And he's stationed on the moon. He's told to kind of look over the station. He goes to check things out for the first time when there's a malfunction on the space station. And he finds what he looks to be a clone of himself, but he's unsure as what's going on. And it's an interesting movie. It pulls up a lot of different science fiction motifs that you've seen in the 70s and 80s during the more cerebral time for science fiction. Was more about movies about ideas rather than special effects. And it's a kind of a dark, brooding, interesting, even sometimes funny, because Sam Rockwell is very subtly comedic when he wants to be. Good movie, especially for basically what's a one-man performance. I would say everybody should not only rent Moon, but this should be in your collection. And finally, one of my all-time favorite movies, I won't even bother talking about it very much, but it's Silence of the Lambs. This is the third time I bought this. I bought the original full-screen DVD when that's all there was, and then I bought the 2-disc special edition when that came out, and I had that and was pretty happy with it for a while. And now I've upgraded to the Blu Ray, which is only 1 disc, but it comes with all the special features that were on the 2-disc. Haven't seen what it looks like in Blu Ray yet, but I'm sure I'll be watching this again soon. This is a movie that I watch at least once or twice a year. Love this movie to death. Here's basically what I bought from the pawn shop at the same time that I bought Primer. I was there primarily looking for Blu-rays, and they have a deal where you can get 4 for $25, $26, so it's very, very cheap way to get good Blu-ray, and they're all basically in good condition, since either they're stolen and sold there, or people just don't want them for one reason or another, to buy meth, probably. The Man with No Name trilogy by Sergio Leone. Of course, Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Never had them in my collection before. I figured this is another, it's a no-brainer. It's like the Godfather trilogy or the Lord of the Rings trilogy. If you're into Blu-ray, if you're into collecting movies, this has to be in your collection. So for that price, I couldn't go wrong. Now, most of these come with just the Blu-ray, but for some reason, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly comes with the Blu-ray and DVD, and quite a bit more special features, even though they all look like they came out in the same time. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But for less than $10 each, you couldn't go wrong. I'm pretty happy with this purchase. I was looking around in Barnes & Noble. On my search, I found something else that I really like. This is a documentary called Corman's World, Exploits of a Hollywood Rebel. And it's just a autobiography, or not autobiography, but just a biography documentary of Roger Corman, the exploitation director. I think in my last video I showed that I bought a box set of a lot of his movies, and I've begun to watch some of those, and they're a lot of fun. And they talk a lot about the production of his early movies, how he got in contact with all those now famous directors and actors like Jack Nicholson and Peter Fonda, Peter Bogdanovich, Martin Scorsese, so on and so forth. Joe Dante, everybody. And they all get interviewed in here, and you get a lot of different perspectives of not only his work, but him as a person and him as a creator. And basically it's all centered around when he got the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Oscar ceremony, and that's the centerpiece of the movie. And it's not only just a fun documentary about the exploitation era, because I've seen a lot of documentaries about that, and I was wondering what this one could bring to the table that all the other ones haven't covered. But you get a lot more about him as a person, and it's actually pretty touching and heartwarming. I'd say it'd be a good double feature. Watch Ed Wood, the Tim Burton film, and then watch this, and that'd be a good double feature for the night. And lastly, I just bought this today. It just came out today, Tuesday. And this is a movie I've been waiting for on Blu Ray for a while. I saw this in theater, and it left quite an impression on me. I won't say it's not without its problems, but it's such an interesting film, and it does so many things with the superhero genre that I had to get it. And of course, I'm talking about Chronicle, which is done in sort of the first-person Handycam style, Cloverfield style, which I'm not all about, but they actually do something kind of interesting with this because basically the story is about these teenagers who find this weird spacecraft or something. It's never really told what it is, but it's this thing that emits radiation underneath the ground at a party that they're at, and they all sort of end up with superpowers. And one of them in particular is not very popular and has a lot of problems at home, and you sort of see a different take on the comic book paradigm of the superhero and the supervillain and how that happens in people. And it says a lot of interesting things about the superhero genre, about the human condition actually, and about sort of teenage angst, and wraps it all up very nicely in a creative way. Yeah, I believe it was written by Max Landis, who is the son of John Landis. And he's obviously a comic book fan and knows his stuff. If you've ever seen his short parody video of the story of the death of Superman in the comics, it's kind of a comedy thing. But if you watch that and then watch this, you kind of get a good idea that where he's coming from when it comes to comic books and superheroes. But I really like this movie a lot, and so far it's been a highlight of the year. We'll see if it cracks my top 10. But right now it has. This is the video. These are my bookshelves. Those are my Blu Rays. If you have any comments below about anything that was in this video, some of the questions I asked about bookshelves, or anything you want to say about the DVDs or Blu Rays that I've purchased, go ahead and leave your comments below. Talk to you later.